So with that, we currently have 4 active commissioners, and Alverta Orlando will not be attending today's meeting. So we have a quorum. I would like to call roll Commissioner Phillips. Are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Woods, are you here?
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Orlando, absent. Commissioner Perlman here. Meeting called to order. Let's start. Item 3 is approval. Item 2 is the agenda approval or modification. Would you kindly look at your agendas for today's meeting? And are there any suggestions for change or modification?
Mr. Chair, I have a few modifications I'd like to note.
Please share them with us.
There are a couple of late items that were provided in your packet. One is a letter from the Department of Transportation. This is provided under written communications, agenda item 12 in your packets. The other is an email from me to the subcommittee regarding the county budget recommendations, which is agenda item 9B that was also sent via email to your commission. And these items will be posted in the meeting materials on the county website. And then I did have a correction to make on the agenda for item 8C regarding the Santa Cruz County RTC purchase of a historically done on the agenda. So those are my corrections.
Thank you, Annie.
I'm sorry, Neil.
Excuse me.
You dropped out. Go back 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Let's see. Did you hear?
8C.
Okay, for 8C, there's a correction to the rating, the historic rating for that structure. It is an NR3 rating, not NR4. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda, it looks like you're muted.
No,
Linda and Neil are both muted.
My agenda does say NR3.
yeah, it says NR3 on there.
Oh, okay, never mind then. Because I made that correction before they done, after they did it.
That's great.
So, okay, good.
Always okay. Any other comments on the agenda? I believe that we can consider the agenda approved as written. That's just great. Okay. I would like to call for item number 3, approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting of October 3rd. Will someone please float a motion?
Oh, Linda, you're muted.
Ah,
You can keep yourself. Oh, I was just going to say that you can keep yourself unmuted. There was just a little bit of background noise at the moment, but it's okay. I think we're good now.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 3rd, 2022 meeting minutes as written.
Thank you,
Second.
Linda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Neil. Any comments on the minutes from the last meeting? They're very clear and nicely done because we have the privilege of having an excellent staff person who just records very accurately. Thank you, Annie. In favor of the minutes, Commissioner Phillips.
I'm sorry,
A vote to approve the minutes?
yes, I approve.
Okay. Thank you. And Commissioner Woods?
Yes.
And Commissioner Perlman, yes. Minutes are approved. Okay, very good. As we move into declaration of ex parte communications, I will ask each of my commissioners if they have anything to share or disclose. Okay?
I,
I have two items I would like to mention at this time. The first item is that we have an agenda item regarding 8D, reviewing a World War I monument located in Aptos. I would like to share that I have visited the site of the monument and examined it, and it is nicely maintained by the Cabrillo Lions Club. It's obscure, but if you look for it, you can find it on Freedom Boulevard, right near the entrance to the freeway, and it is very nicely presented. So I saw it, and there you go. I have one other item I would like to declare here in our ex parte communications, and that is an encouragement to our commissioners. Last year, on May 2nd of 2022, Annie Murphy forwarded to the commissioners a current copy of the bylaws. You will find it in an email dated May 2nd, 2022 as an attachment. May I suggest and encourage that each of us print out a copy, throw away any earlier versions of the bylaws, and refresh ourselves. I think it's an excellent way to start the year with a fresh reading of our bylaws, so to make sure that we're all sort of conforming and with the program. And we see both our opportunities and our limitations as presented in the bylaws. So I would make that a personal encouragement to all of you. And I think it's my job to make sure I have very thorough knowledge of them. So with that said, let's move to item number 5, which is public communications. But excuse me, I left out something. I've been a little rude. I did not introduce our guests. I'm sorry. We do have guests in our meeting today. Okay. And we have Peter Deathlifts with us. Peter's from the CAO's office, and he is on the agenda presenting new business to us. And we also have another guest present. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Kevin Newhouse, and I live in Aptos, and I've been involved with local history and community projects for several years now. And I'm just kind of here to observe how the meetings are run for potential further participation.
Thank you very much. I thank our guests. Are there any other remote guests that are here that wish to identify themselves? Okay, thank you, everyone. Being that these meetings are quarterly, I get a little stale in between meetings and sort of need some momentum to get the agenda rolling. So we're there now, number 5, public communication. Any members of the public wish to speak on any items that are not on the agenda? Very well. We'll close that item and move on to item 6, consent items. Annie, can I call upon you?
Certainly. So this is per state law, a resolution to continue virtual Historic Resources Commission meetings in accordance with Assembly Bill 361 and amended Government Code Section 54953 regarding the Brown Act. And a resolution is attached, and we do need a motion to approve the resolution.
May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the resolution to continue for our meetings.
Thank you, Neil. A second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Linda. I've got to keep you two active here. You got to do all that stuff. All right. Commissioner Phillips, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Woods, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Commissioner Perlman also votes aye. Resolution's accepted. Now, we do this on a monthly routine basis. Annie has provided us with hard copy for today, which I appreciate to start off the year. But we will continue to approve this, because by approving it, we can proceed legally with full authority. Thank you, Annie. Okay, are there any other consent items for today? All right, we'll move to item number 7, public hearing items. There are no items I'm aware of. Anyone else? Thank you. What a cooperative group. No public items. Item 7 is closed. We can begin to move to new business. And I'm very happy to present Peter from the CAO's office. We have a great rapport with our CAO's office. We're very lucky to have such quality people managing the county. And Peter, I'd like to turn the meeting over to you with the help of Natisha to manage the technical side.
Fantastic. Natisha, do you want to share the presentation or would you like me to?
I've just given you control, so you can feel free to go through the presentation yourself.
Fantastic.
And I think it just starts on the next page.
That's great.
Is that correct? Oh, is that not?
Oh,
Right, there we go.
should I stop sharing? Sorry.
Go for it. Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you everyone for allowing me to join you today. I'm going to give you kind of a brief update on our 2023 operational plan process, and also an update on a report called A Santa Cruz County Like Me, which sort of dives into representation on our county commissions. Unfortunately, Dave Reed has been swamped with the disaster and will not be able to join us today to talk about the climate action and adaptation plan. He's actually triple booked for this meeting, so I'm sorry. We're gonna pass on that today. So,
Peter, may I ask a question?
absolutely.
Are you going to defer that item to present it to us perhaps at the next meeting?
You know, actually, it was simply an add-on. We presented the cap to the Planning Commission. We thought, you know, since we were at it, we would do it. But the primary goal is to actually touch base on the other two. So at this point, no, we won't. Unless you have a special request, we don't intend to bring it back.
Fran, thank you for that clarification, and it will be included in our records and our minutes because you sent it to us.
Correct.
So it'll rest there, and if we need to activate, just come on back, please.
All right, fantastic.
So I'll turn it back to you. Please continue. All
right, let's see if I can move us ahead here. I'm balancing a bunch of different screens, sorry. So the Santa Cruz County Strategic Plan for 2018-24 was approved by the Board of Supervisors in June 2018. It provides a vision for the county, which is the aspirational statement of the kind of community we want to be. It provides a mission of why we exist as an organization and values of how we show up to serve the community. So this was the first of its kind for our county, at least as far as I'm aware, and has definitely helped guide county operations. So the operational plan is how we fulfill our mission and achieve our vision within the strategic plan. It's refreshed every 2 years, and it holds the county's major work accountable through SMART objectives, which we are now updating to be SMART-E objectives, which are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, inclusive, and equitable. Let's see here. So in the development of the first 2 operational plans, the objectives were presented to commissions and other stakeholders only after they were written by staff in the departments. And so board and commission feedback for this plan was that we'd like to, introduce the topic to the commissions in advance of putting together the objectives. And so for the 2023 plan, we're focused on continuing to hold our major work accountable to measurable results, and also working with our community partners to make sure that their voices are reflected in the plan. So the reason I'm here today is to, really speak with you about, just getting your input, and, and basically just sort of have a conversation. We also have a survey that I can put the link into the chat if you prefer to, comment in writing. But, this is kind of within the scope of your commission. What's one issue, if addressed, that would have the biggest positive impact on county residents?
Peter?
Yeah.
Under my slide for commission input, I have different comments than what you have on your slide. So I think I'm looking maybe at the next slide.
Second, please.
Because to be transparent here,
Did I
only printed out 2 slides, the ones dealing with focusing on the Santa Cruz Like Me.
Okay.
And I printed out the report recommendations and next steps and commission input slides.
Okay.
So for mine, my first comment is on the slide, the first bullet point is representation on some commissions are voluntary and others appointed, which
So we're going to get to that
questions about.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to that. That's actually
coming
on, that's on the Santa Cruz County Like Me portion, which we're going to get to next.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, we're just, talking about objectives, within, within your purview of what would make, the biggest impact on county residents, from the Historic Resource Commission and how we serve our community.
Peter, can I ask you a question? You mentioned
Sure.
a survey. Is that a different survey than what was sent out regarding Santa Cruz Like Me? This is a survey about the operational strategic plan.
It is. So this is one actually that Sven Stafford put together in our office, and I can find the link here and I can paste it in the chat. And so this is just kind of more detail that you guys can respond to in writing if you want to take the time.
So are you saying are you saying this is a different survey than the Santa Cruz Like Me?
Correct.
Yes. Different subject.
Okay, I did not see this survey. Were you requesting commissioners' input?
I'm requesting it now, right? So that's different, right? So right now we're talking about the operational plan, which is how we implement the strategic plan. We'll get to Santa Cruz County Like Me in our next section.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, and I believe, Peter, that if commissioners want to think about it more, another option would be to complete that other survey, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't feel that you have to talk here. I'm just giving you the opportunity if there are specific things that come to mind. I pasted the survey into the chat and you guys can respond later, right? So, the next topic is major projects that, and sometimes these don't apply very directly, right? But maybe there's major projects or activities that are, coming across, under your purview in the next 2 years that you know about, that you want to, make sure that there is an objective in the operational plan that relates to that, right? And finally, it's, we want to make sure that these objectives are measurable, and so, we're asking if there's, specific data that would, assist you in that you may like to have that could, make sure that people are better off from the activities that you do.
Peter?
Yeah.
I would like to make a comment on that first one. What one issue, if addressed, would have the biggest positive impact? I think that I know Barry and I have talked about this. Is that I think that we feel somewhat our little commission really sort of obscure in a way that you could probably go out on the street and ask 100 people, and you might get 5 or 10 that might have ever heard of the Historic Resources Commission in the community.
Yeah.
And so when we come to a focus point where we have input on something, I think that our goal would be that our contribution is one of a positive nature against the backdrop of what we are attempting to do in the community in respect for our historic structures that we have in the community. So every time we come into a work situation, you would not want it to be a negative thing, like what's Resources Commission, they want to stop this thing, they think it's a valuable old house. We need to be more proactive in the front end on letting people know what we do. And that's part of something that we've talked about, is what kind of a program does the Historic Resource Commission do on an outreach basis, so we have some notoriety as being a positive aspect in cherishing what we have within this community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
could embellish and continue with what Neil's talking about, we're actually, we see ourselves as a watchdog commission. Our job is to protect the integrity of the historic properties that are in our community. And that's an invisible contribution. And what the kind of thing that might help promote our activity and enhance the public's concept of county government would be that when we do accomplish something, if we do contribute to making something a new historic monument, how about a press release that recognizes that activity, that goes out to the media to keep the public aware of our progress and of our continuing activity to protect the historic properties? So
Yeah.
maybe there's a small ways in which we can enhance our visibility that don't cost anything to do, but a few minutes effort.
Right. And celebrate the wins in the process.
Yes,
that's a great idea.
Indeed. Thank you. Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Okay. All right. Anything else on this now? I mean, certainly you can always, input your thoughts in the survey. Otherwise we can move along to Santa Cruz like me.
I'll name one thing, and that's for item 2, major project or activity. We have a lot of conversation about updating the inventory. And manpower is the most difficult characteristic to accomplish that. Okay, so I'm going to throw this right out there. We would love to see a really current, actively updated inventory of historic properties. And I'm going to throw this out rather randomly while you're asking for ideas. The concept of an intern assigned to a commission to help them manifest their projects. In this case, I would imagine that if we could get a Cabrillo College history major to be an intern to our commission and get collegiate credit for the project of serving us as an assistant and interning, could be a win-win situation for the community and could empower commissions. Overall, the concept of interns could empower the commissions to be able to have more manpower. So as we're all volunteers. So, and staffers are really, everyone who works for the county has a full workload right now. The county is understaffed.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to throw that out for number 2 for you to include in your considerations.
Okay.
And I think the data, go ahead, Linda, I'm sorry.
Oh,
No, I think Barry was speaking next.
that was me, actually. I was just going to mention, related to bullet 2, the commission, I'm also assisting them to update the information on the CDI website regarding historic preservation to have additional outreach to the community and presence of that.
Thank you, Annie. That's very helpful that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I think one of the things moving forward, it would be so nice to have our database of historic structures within Santa Cruz County in essentially an electronic database and i.e. PDFs that are created. So essentially anyone could go to that database. Right now we're woefully working with analog, so copies of things are hardly legible, and it looks less than professional too, from my point of view. So I think to take our database that and try and come up with a formation of a way that we can add to it, and then have this on a PDF basis. So, even Annie would not have to email us copies of something. It would just be a link to that particular file in the database of this historic, structure, whatever that we're discussing. And, that would be so efficient for the county, for planning, for everyone across, to have a database that is up to date, easy to add to in electronic format. And, everything's being converted over time. And I just, as a new commissioner coming into this a little over just a year or so, I see, I'm stunned that we need to figure out a way to move towards that that's efficient, and then it would become a lot more manageable.
Agreed. I have to confess, when I was in college, I was an intern for a historic resource commission for City of Los Altos, and I was the one inputting all their DPRs into a DOS-based system.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you, Peter.
So I love your ideas because I did benefit from that.
Yeah.
So can we consider that approved by the CAO's office?
Annie, we'll need to circle with Amy and get these added to the list of potential objectives that she's working on. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. That's great. But
even if the current DPRs are scanned and put in, then to build back in ultimately as you get more information and a way to do it. I mean, someone has to be doing this. There has to be a format someplace that this is.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your input. I approve. All right. So go ahead.
Well, then, because as Barry and Neil mentioned, these are objectives and goals that we've talked about for quite some time. And Barry and I were a subcommittee working on the Historic Resources website. So I'm going to throw that in because I think I'm going to be making a report on what we found, but the website definitely needs to be updated. And I don't want to go into points right now, but maybe there's a way. In fact, there's no way coming into the county website to even get to the Historic Resources website. You have to know it's under the planning department. How many people are going to know that? And there are two different websites on the county website, and one of them you cannot get to unless you know the complete URL. So there are definitely things that could be done to improve the visibility and accessibility of the Historic Resources Commission location on the county website.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll take a look at that.
Peter, specifically, if I can embellish on Linda's comment, specifically, we don't think that the average citizen is going to understand the word sustainability and go there and look for a subtopic of sustainability where you will find us. It's not that we're not there, we are there, but we're dealing with any professional in the field will understand sustainability, but the average citizen may not know what that refers to. So they're not going to target properly. So we'll be making some recommendations down the road on this. We're naming it now.
Okay. So I will say that I don't know when the last time you looked at our webpage, we have begun a process of updating and modernizing and simplifying the county's website to make it more, what's the word I want to say, approachable for the public. And so on our main homepage now, there is a button for commissions and committees. And from that, you can actually go directly to the Historic Resource Commission webpage, but that is still in the old format. And so over time, I know it is the county's priorities to update all of these pages. But I do think that this is still probably a good thing to put on your list of objectives as well, just to reinforce that.
Yes, and I think that when we do get to the portion of the CDI webpage, I can certainly work with the subcommittee on, on
Yes.
making the information more accessible. And
Yeah, so there's two parts. One part would be making it a little bit more accessible, and the other part is that we may propose some additional copy. And that would go to you guys to work with.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. All right, great ideas. All right, well, moving on to a Santa Cruz County like me. Our county is very diverse, right? And we value diversity as a community. And we also recognize that different lived experiences can help inform, shape policy and governance, right? So last year, after receiving census data, the CAO partnered with Santa Cruz Community Ventures, which is to gain a better understanding of the makeup and representation in our commissions and other bodies, boards, advice. So the findings of the survey were presented to the board and the community via a report called A Santa Cruz Like Me, A Value of Representational Government. And so the board accepted this report and along with recommendations of December of 2021. So today I'm just going to share, some key findings in that report, and then again, I'm going to look to you for, some questions on how we can do better, right? So let's see. So the Santa Cruz County Like Me survey was the first time the county had an opportunity to view data on boards and commissions. Given that this was only shared with the currently appointed members as a voluntary survey, we didn't have a very good response rate. It was only about 50%. It doesn't provide a clear comparison of applicants versus those being appointed, just to be, transparent about that. So it is a step towards, a data-driven alignment with the strategic plan goals and to create a community that is culturally diverse and, economically inclusive. And so, oops, sorry. This first slide here kind of shows ethnicity and age, and basically suggests that we are highly underrepresented in Hispanic and Latino participants. And when you look at age, again, we're not we don't really have young people represented.
Next slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got off track here. I'm sorry. I've got, like I said, I've got two screens and I'm getting a little.
So we skipped commissioner housing and status, right? We're into ethnicity and age.
Yeah, here we are. So where we are. So I'm sorry about that. So where they live, right? So primarily it's mid-county, and so we have underrepresentation in South County. We have an overrepresented representation of homeowners and under with renters, right? So sorry about that. And here we go with ethnicity, right? So, and age, we talked about that a little bit. And then education, right? So we have, definitely an overrepresentation of college educated individuals and an underrepresentation of those with just a high school or associate level degree. So what's being done to better align the representation on commissions? So we've already begun to act towards these recommendations. We've been in the process of creating a committee to review variances and propose solutions. We're updating applications on all the boards and commissions to include the collection of voluntary and confidential demographic data, as well as improving the onboarding process for appointees to include county data review. And so this committee will be meeting monthly and to identify goals and strategies, outreach to the community and track and measure outcomes and assess the impact of their work. So at this point, I know your board or your commission is appointed. And so, we're not looking for people to, necessarily volunteer to serve on this in the same kind of way. Yes, Barry.
Oh, no, I was waiting to Carolyn, who just joined the meeting.
Okay.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Carolyn. And so again, we, just to sort of engage the conversation again, just, thinking about ways in general, maybe not just for your commission, but, all of our advisory bodies, how do we think about becoming more representative and inclusive of our community? How did you learn about this commission and what encouraged you to accept the appointment? And, one change to our appointment process if implemented that could move us towards commissions that are more representative and inclusive of our diverse community. And again, that link that I did for the survey, you can respond in writing again there if there's things that you want to, not say publicly, or just thoughts that you have at a later date. But at this point, I'm just here to, listen and take notes and report back.
Peter, may I suggest, I think we do have a little bit of time right now for anybody that would like to suggest or push anything out there, because you're running so efficiently this morning. So I have some things to say, but I would like to ask my
Questions and
other
input.
friends first, if they would like to talk. Linda.
So in the very first bullet point, you mentioned voluntary and others appointed. How are you distinguishing between the two? Because I feel I'm both, and I think all of the commissioners are both, but it sounds like maybe others appointed. Are they getting a stipend or something? What's the difference?
No, there's not that, but some of our commissions are purely voluntary, right? That they don't require an official appointment that's board approved, in order to serve. Whereas I believe that, for the planning commission, I believe for your commission too, right? When you serve, it actually is a board item that goes to the board for the whole board to approve. Correct. Your appointment, right?
Yes.
So,
correct. I'm surprised that they're not all appointed. I did not know that there were some that were not.
Yeah, we have a lot of just
Interesting.
advisory
Could you
bodies
give us
too
an
that
example, Peter?
That's a good question. Not off the top of my head. Our goal, in general, as the county at this point is to be, more inclusive of everyone's voices, no matter what, right? Even when we have public meetings, we're trying to figure out ways how to engage, all aspects of our community rather than just hearing from the same people that show up at all the meetings, right? And so, these are why we're just looking for, ideas and how we can get there.
Well, then continuing on to bullet number 2, I would reiterate some of what we've spoken about in the previous survey. I think the supervisors could be more visible and more proactive in publicizing the commissions that they have on their websites, with links to then what the commissions do and some information about them. And I know I was appointed by Supervisor
Broke up.
at a restaurant for all his commissioners. And I was amazed at how many commissions there were and what some of them were. I did not know there was an animal control commission and had no idea who was on them. And I was, again, very pleasantly surprised that some of my friends were on these other commissions. So I think the whole, atmosphere, the whole image of the commissions is kind of this shadowy kind of black hole that most of the county doesn't know about. So having much more visibility and awareness of what they are, what they do, maybe what kind of qualifications they're looking for ones that are more, that would want that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So for me, that would be definitely one of them on number 2. And yeah, I think that's my point, is taking in what we were saying on the previous survey, and I think that's appropriate for this one too, very applicable.
Great, thank you.
Neil, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think, when I look at this and not having been well educated in county government, and obviously, living here since '89, developing biases over time as process happens, it's nice to be educated that we have a system within our county government that is working to achieve strong input across all aspects of what is involved within the county. So that breaks down a bias that you might have, that the county has an agenda and these little commissions just serve as kind of an adjunct to pretend that we listen. So to Linda's point, the more active the supervisors are in communicating the value of these commissions, from what'd you say, Linda? The Humane Commission.
The Animal Control Commission.
Okay, the 4 or 6 people that are on that Animal Control Commission, to this little Historic Resources Commission with its 4 or 5 people, to have this awareness coming from the Board of Supervisors that, this is great help in terms of a cohesiveness of government within the community. And that has helped change the biases that I have had by actually becoming involved in a commission and serving on a commission. And, my wife now serves on a commission. So I think it's part of being in this community. It's a fantastic way to give back to the community and to feel involved. And so, that acknowledgement, appreciation that would be driven down coming from, the county might do a commission appreciation day or a week. And that might just to the forefront bring, were you aware of all of these commissions that you can serve, on a commission here within the county? So I think that's been pretty quiet in the past. It's like, when someone calls you or you find out about it, but to be more proactive about what all these various commissions offer, and to help build that diversity from South County to North, both geographically, educationally, across the board is a worthwhile goal to put out there for the county.
Great. Thank you.
Peter?
Where do you go?
So going off of what Neil was saying, so I used to be the executive director of the San Lorenzo Valley Museum.
Oops, we lost you, I think.
Building there.
Okay.
And maybe something along those lines on somewhere there in the community or in the government building, using a wall to highlight and put something up about the different commissions for maybe a week, so that everybody coming into the building, maybe a sign at the door saying, look at this. Do you know about the county commissions? See the fourth floor or first floor, whatever, as a way to highlight and I don't know if advertise would be the right word, but to promote,
Mm-hmm.
to raise the community's awareness that there are these commissions, what they are, and a little bit about them.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Peter, I have some comments also, but I wanted to go last. So, Carolyn, you're a guest, Carolyn, but we recognize your great experience as a former commissioner. Would you like to add anything before I speak on this?
Were you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yes, I would like to say something.
Great.
Because if you're talking about the Santa Cruz is Me movement, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's because I tuned in late, and but I've resigned from this commission, and this survey, this little movement, was one of the reasons I resigned.
Interesting.
Well, it's not the whole approach. I agreed with everything. That you want to accomplish. I agree totally. I did not agree with the language used and the point of view that came across. And it was very strongly suggesting that the reason that there isn't greater representation of lots of people in county government is because of old educated white people. And I really felt like I was being discriminated against as an old person. I mean, not that would stop me, but it did get me to think. And what it got me to think about was, because I was on this commission for a long time. So, okay, I've stayed too long. And I should leave to make room for a younger person who is in that pool of untapped resources. So that's why I decided to leave, because of this, because there is evidently a lot of people who want to be involved and are not. I also feel that there's a gap between the people who aren't involved and the people who are involved who might want people to be involved, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to reach out to those people? How do you know that these people want to be involved? How do you know that a family in Watsonville who is struggling and, has children in school and, not good transportation is going to want to be involved with the county commission? Usually you have to want to be involved in the commission. You have to have some strong tie with the commission and what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very difficult to make that connection. And, in the old days, this is what old people say, in the old days, you had the newspapers. And that you had reporters that would go to meetings and they would follow what was happening in the government and they would report on it. You'd pick up your newspaper and there it would be, this commission did this, that this important decision was made. And that was at least a way to get people to know that these commissions existed. You don't have that anymore. So you have to go to where people, what do they read? What do they interview?
Yeah.
You have to get into the, latest technology and inform people that way, I think.
Mhm.
You have to get into what do young people read? What are they into? What would get them involved in a commission? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're what do they call them? What generation?
Millennial.
Yeah, that's it. If you're one of those, you probably are. Being on a commission is not something you're going to seek out. So the job isn't really to, I think, educate commissioners about it so much as it's to educate the population about the opportunity to be on a commission. So anyway,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn. I would like to share a couple of ideas with the group, and I have a unique perspective on this, different from all of the rest of you. I am a committee member of a Santa Cruz like me, and I have attended every meeting and every work session. I'll start up by saying only 3 of the people on the committee can say that they've attended every meeting and every work session. So the Santa Cruz like me committee is showing an absence of participation in the activity of the committee, which is the same complaint that that committee has of the county. So now, when that survey was originally sent out, I have a good deal of very accurate information. Peter, I hope this is helpful to you. I also don't quite know where to turn with this, so I'm going to use this moment. The survey was originally sent out in July of 2021. It was administered by the clerk of the board. There was a basic error that happened in the issuing of the survey. The clerk of the board did not recognize that commissions all operate through the administrative help of the staffer. The staffer in every case distributes all the information to the people on a commission. The clerk of the board did not send any particular letter or ask the staffers to help with getting these surveys filled out. The staffers received it as a random incoming email, just like the commissioners received it as a random incoming email. And I can tell you that almost every member of our commission did not see or recognize the survey for what it was, and none of us filled it out in July of 2021. A follow-up letter was sent 1 month later, but it was sent the same way. It was not, I'm going to use the word fostered by the staffers. That is a critical element. That's how commissions work. Our staffers are vital to our operation and our success, and they are the central communicator. So you don't ask the staffers to walk this through. It doesn't get walked through. And Peter, specifically, it was a 42, not a 50% return they got. So I would suggest that if they had used the staffers like they just did, this was corrected. I talked to Nicole about this, and we just all got a new survey and were encouraged by Annie to fill it out. Okay, this second round will give us a much more accurate result. This new version of the survey, the second doing of it that happened 2 weeks ago, that is going to be a far more valuable document than the original survey. So that's my first comment. My second comment regarding representation is that representation is, you can only be accurate in your evaluation of representation if you drill down. If you take superficial results, you get misinformation. Bear with me, I have one example. in the recent census that we're referring to, the city of Watsonville has a population that is 37% under the age of 17 years old. 37% under 17 years old. Well, you can't even be a commissioner until you're 18. So if you want to look at a population of volunteers, and you say there aren't very many volunteers from South County, let's start with the pure fact that only 61% of the population is even eligible by pure age. So I want to be very careful that statistics are not misused, okay? And the third part of my comment is that I think that the Santa Cruz Light Meat Committee needs some revitalization in the way it's operating. And I'll defer further detail, but I just want to make that statement. I think it needs to be revisited and revitalized for the 2023 part of what you presented in the previous slide. Okay, I don't think we're going to get a good result if we continue operating as we've operated, and we needed to cancel the January meeting because we didn't have adequate participation. So I'm being very specific on that. So I hope those 3 points help you develop an effective document and effective results.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. I'll certainly push this up. Yeah, thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
All
What's
right.
next?
That's it for me. So I can stop
Wow.
sharing.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to pose to Peter or any further input? Well, thank you for coming to our meeting.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
all.
And
Yeah.
bringing these to us. And
Absolutely.
I think that I can speak for my fellow commissioners in saying that you will have our support and cooperation all the way.
Fantastic.
We're really here to work, and the more attention that we receive from the CAO, the more help that we'd like to give back.
Great. I certainly appreciate all of your time and your input on this. And, Carolyn, thank you for your years of service on this commission and at the Capitola Museum, right? I hear about you often. Full confession, my mom's Charlene Duvall, so.
So she's a supporter of historic preservation.
Just to say the least. So.
By the way, Peter, I serve this commission largely because of the experience that I got working at the Adobe.
Absolutely, right.
And working closely with your mom.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks,
and
Barry.
Send her my best regards.
I will, and please give Susan mine. I did see, I got a preview of the agenda of the Board of Supervisors next week, and Friends is actually going to be presenting the video on the restoration of the Castro Adobe, just so you know. So if you're interested in tuning in for that. So anyway, thanks so much for your time, and please feel free to reach out to me and put any further information in the survey.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, friends, I appreciate the report from the CAO's office, and I think that it's very important for us to build on our bond with them. We're very fortunate. We've got good government in this county. That's my point of view. So with that done, we have completed item 8A. Carolyn, it's great that you're here. You are the subject of item 8B, and I will name it 8B. Consider resolution acknowledging the contributions of Carolyn Swift to the Historic Resources Commission. There you are, right? You're present and accounted for. Carolyn, how many years were you on the commission?
You know, I don't even know. I don't, because I was on and then I got off after about 3 years. Then I came back, and then I was removed by a supervisor who won the election in Watsonville. And then I came back. This is my 3 times, I think. I served 3 different times. So, but I wanted to say a few words. I'm not going to stick around for your discussion. I just wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed working with all of you, and how I feel about the commission, which is really positive. I mean, I didn't want to leave and have you think, oh God, she doesn't want to do it anymore. I really value the commission and the work it's done, and I feel like, well, recently in the last couple of years, Barry and Neil came aboard, very eager to learn and to kind of get training, and picked up on what needs to be done. And Linda has been, fabulous at pulling together goals, so that you can actually get somewhere. And
For sure.
yeah, so it looks like you're going in a really positive direction for the commission, and for sort of and that we were in a period there for about 10 years where we couldn't get anything done. I mean, it was like swimming upstream because the county didn't have the money to give us to accomplish what we were supposed to do. So hoping that'll change, and you're certainly now looking towards pushing for support will allow the inventory to be taken care of. And I also wanted to thank Annie Murphy, who's really been a saint to work with, because I having been on the board for 3 times, I worked with different staff that was assigned to the commission, and she has consistently been a supporter, but kind of a teammate, and I appreciated that over and over. So that's basically what I wanted to say, and I think the only thing that that I think is important to keep an eye on is the watch list, because while you don't have funding to look at to really improve the inventory, you can do the watch list, and if something gets on the watch list, it is a way to help preserve it, and it's likely that it will eventually get on the list. So I just wanted to congratulate you on the direction you're going, and I'm not leaving for any other reason except for that I think it's time to get someone younger with a fresher perspective. And I'm not going away. I'm gonna, haunt you. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. I'd like to share one thought with you of something that we mentioned before you signed into the meeting. When we were talking to Peter, we brought up the subject of the possibility of having an intern that would help us with things like the inventory. And we also considered that maybe that person could be a Cabrillo College student who would get credit for working as an intern. And those are 2 ideas that you have floated in the past that I am carrying on with. So I want to give you the credit, acknowledgement, and let you know that we're going to continue to try to hook up a link with Cabrillo, and we're going to continue to try to get a young person and an intern to come give us some help.
I know you're headed in a good direction, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming today, and thank you for all of your work.
Well, thank you.
Carolyn.
And I'm going to say goodbye and good luck.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay.
Thank you.
What a marvelous human being. And aren't we lucky to have had her participation? And the fact that she felt committed to want to be a presence today, I think just caps it all and tells us exactly who we have. So thank you everyone for Carol. Now we get to consider, it's not whether we're going to have a resolution. I think I get a feeling that we definitely want to have a resolution. Who wants to write it? Annie, have you any experience with this? Have we ever done any of these?
Yeah, I can certainly assist with that. Yeah, work with someone perhaps on the commission or.
Sure enough.
Okay.
Would you and me, how about you and me?
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, so, I'm suggesting that Annie and I form let's call it an informal subcommittee, because, it's one commissioner and staffer. Annie and I will work on the letter, and as soon as we've got it ready, what we will do is send out a draft of it to the commissioners and ask for your support. Okay? May I ask both Linda and Neil how they feel about that?
Yes, fantastic.
Thank you.
If I can have a
I
suggestion, I was thinking of doing it like a certificate, a nice paper, and like a little frame.
Yes,
As a
exactly.
resolution, kind of a formal sort of.
Right, give her something that we can actually present to her,
Yeah.
that she might be able to enjoy that appreciation, put it on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you. Linda, do you want to add anything?
No, I don't think so. As an aside, maybe it'd be nice if we could have lunch with Carolyn like we did that one time.
I think that's a marvelous idea. Why don't you and I talk about that offline? It's informal. It's not formal business that needs any kind of formal acknowledgement in the meeting. But as a personal idea, I think that's delightful. So you and me, how about I give you a call in the next few days? We'll make it happen.
And if I could just make a comment, as long as there's no commission business
Correct.
discussed, then it's in conformance with the Brown Act, and as many commissioners who would like to go can attend. So just as long as there's no commission business discussed, then it's just a social occasion. So
Thank you, Annie. Thank you for that clarification, and we'll certainly conform to that. While we're on this item B, I would like to just make a very brief statement, and that is that our Commissioner Orlando has also served a very long, I'm going to use the word very healthy term of service. And Alberta's personal situation makes it more difficult for her to get to meetings now. Because Alberta reports to a newly elected supervisor, Justin Cummings, after talking to Alberta on the phone, I thought that it might be helpful to call Justin Cummings' office and kind of refresh one of the analysts on Alberta and the effective role she has created for us, because that's a new group of people there. So I called and I spoke with Sandy Brown, and I was able to update Sandy about Alberta's change of residence, her health update, and I wanted to share her contributions so that the current supervisor would have an appreciation for his commissioner. Okay, and then I encourage that they make contact with Alberta and ask her about her term of service and how she would like to proceed from here. Okay, so in the efforts for good communication and having stronger relationships with our supervisors, I think that was a helpful call. But I wanted to share it with all of you here for open disclosure. Okay, any comments on that? Okey-doke. Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's continue. Let's move to item 8C, discuss purchase by the Santa Cruz County Regional Transportation Commission of the historically designated property at 7992 Soquel Drive in Aptos. And we do have some support materials. So if I could ask the commissioners to look for their support materials that were sent out and posted from agenda item 8C. Annie, would you care to contribute any helpful information on this?
Yes, I do have comments on that. Thank you, Chair. So this is the Judge Rice House, which is rated NR3, meaning eligible in the opinion of the commission for listing on the National Register. And it is significant due to its association with Judge Rice, who was an important founder of the Aptos community. And the RTC has recently authorized the purchase of this property. And I've been in communication with the RTC staff, and they indicated the intent is to use a portion of the property as right-of-way to construct the coastal rail trail. And they anticipate that the garage on the property, I don't have a photo of the garage, but it was, according to them, it was constructed in the 1970s. And they anticipate that the garage may need to be demolished in order to provide room for the right-of-way. And I did inform RTC staff that since the property is designated as historic, any alteration, new construction, or demolition of structures on the property will require review for conformance with historic preservation criteria in the county code. And I will certainly keep the commission updated regarding the status of the property. Certainly, the DPR form primarily discusses the significance of the residence itself. So certainly if they were proposing to demolish that residence, that would be a whole nother situation that would likely not be approved. So that's sort of where it stands at this point.
Yes. Thank you, Annie.
Yes.
I'll open this up to discussion for any of our commissioners wish to comment. Neil.
First thing, the photograph that's presented here, I actually, this is much improved, this property, the exterior, both in windows, I think, and the paint and everything. So it actually, I went by the site, and there's also, because of the listing is on there, kudos to whoever did the improvements on that property, because it really shines right now there.
Oh, so you're saying the condition is better than what's shown in the photograph here?
Oh, my goodness, it's astounding.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, it's, I could forward it to you, Annie, so you actually had it if you wanted that, but it is much better. I guess my comment in reading, the DPR and everything is that this is definitely the type of structure that merits, maintaining there in the community because of its historic significance. But I would say that the attachments, which are not seen in this photo, the very plain garages to the right, to me, are of no historic significance. So if those were to be removed, I don't see that as a loss. I am curious as to what the RTC plans to do with this, because some of it says it can be repurposed or resold in the future. I'm just puzzled why this. First of all, I'm just puzzled why this purchase to the RTC is important to them. I don't understand that.
So they are. We're about a mile. Linda, can you mute your computer? Oh, close.
You've got a text message.
Well.
Yeah. Okay. So the RTC is apparently is interested in purchasing a portion. And using a portion of the site to construct the coastal rail trail. So I don't have a plan view of the parcel, but apparently it's part of where they're intending to sort of expand the rail trail adjacent to the rail tracks and using that portion of that for the rail trail.
It's my understanding that they perceive that they're able to leave the home intact only tearing down those garages so that when they build that segment of the trail, you'll be walking by this home. That's my understanding. Well, I have a separate set of questions, Neil, that you just provoked by your comments, which I really appreciate that you did the drive-by, Neil. Thank you very much for that. And my comments are this: if the building has been so vastly improved, was it improved legally with permits? Because we would have had to approve those permits. We're seeing, is that correct?
Well, so there are different sort of improvements that can happen. If it's repair and replace in kind, if they, repainted it and so if they repainted it, replace the siding with light siding, that sort of thing, that does not require review.
Okay.
If they are doing sort of cosmetic things like window replacement or roof replacement, that is supposed to come through planning. I don't know. I haven't received any permits for them recently, so I don't know the type of repairs, or if it was just sort of, painting, maybe replacing the stair or something that's more, repair and replace in kind. In other words, that does not require review.
I wonder whether this requires any more investigation by us. And the only reason I mention that is that if all of this goes forward, and if that good-looking home is going to be retained and now will become more visible because it's on the trail, then I would like to hope that we have a legally approved structure that reflects process. And I don't know how we would quite determine that.
I can look into that and report back at the next meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, if you could forward me the photos that you took, Neil, that would be helpful.
Clarification, I did not take photos when I went there, but there's a photo I can grab from MLS listings.
Oh, great.
Okay.
That would be great.
Because I think it's, it's a commercial property that it's owned.
Oh, gosh, it does look, Kevin just showed me a photo on his phone. It does look much better, and it looks to me like it may just be a very nice.
Yes, yes,
It
it
looks
does.
like they probably did replace the new roof, yeah, so,
It looks like they retained thoroughly the spirit of the original.
gosh, yeah, I think it looks mostly like.
Great.
Oh, I see, they did change the stair railing, so, yeah, some of this should have probably gone through historic review, and I don't know, I'll look into it and report back.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is a bit sensitive, but we don't really have a choice, because once we see it, we must deal with it. So it'll be very interesting for us to look at Annie's update next month. This item will continue onto our agenda for consideration, at our next meeting, next quarter. So I would like to retire item C and move on to item 8D. Okay, and again, I'm going to defer to Annie for a moment. The commission received a letter. I'm going to point to the letter. You have detail for this item in your packet. It's item 8D. And where did I put mine? Here it is. Which includes photographs. Okay, so there is a World War I monument. I visited it this morning. And it is being maintained by the Cabrillo Lions Club. And the secretary of the Lions Club has written to our commission a letter that is included in your packet that's asking us to place consideration of this item onto our agenda. So we've accomplished the first thing. It's about designating the monument as a historic property, as the monument was originally erected in 1925. Okay, so I'm going to open this item for discussion. Either of our commissioners have anything to say on this item, now would be the appropriate time. Okay, guys. So following the dictates of the letter, we perceive that the proper step is not really for us to take action. We don't add properties. There is a protocol and a process. This process would start by responding to this letter from the commission and giving them the advice that if they want to, the next step would be for them to fill out a DPR. Okay, that's the protocol. So I don't think that this needs any kind of a vote. I think we will respond to this letter, encouraging them to fill out a DPR. And I think we can honestly say that we see no obstacle, obviously. There's no obvious obstacle at this time that would prevent the approval of their DPR. So we're going to encourage them to move forward with it. Let me just suggest that this is where the pedal hits the metal, and now we'll find out whether they want to pay for the DPR. That's just how it works. They may have funds put aside for this. They may have a donation put aside for this. So we're going to respond in the positive, direct them towards documentation, and then we'll see what we get back in the future. Okay? Any other comments on item 8D?
If I can just add it, I mean, there may not be obstacles to destination, but it would have to meet criteria. I don't know that it, I mean, it'd have to be determined that it met the significance for listing. So
Now, who makes that decision?
they would have a consultant prepare the DPR and look at it for conformance with the criteria in the county code for designation.
And then it's submitted to the planning department.
Then, right, submitted to the planning department's application, and then would first go to your commission for review, and then it would go to the board of supervisors for final approval.
Okay. So a quick recap of the protocol and procedure. Thanks, Annie, for that. So with that clarification, we're going to complete our new business for today. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's move to item 9A. Would this be a good time to take a 5-minute break before we enter new business?
Yeah,
Yes.
Great. At 11:01, I'm calling a temporary adjournment of the meeting. Let's take about a 5-minute break and come back as close to 11:06, 11:07 as possible. Thank you, everybody.
Kevin, if you're interested in looking at the materials, this binder has like all the materials and part of the
Excuse me,
materials.
sir, for a moment.
Certainly.
Be right back.
Okay.
Do I knock on the door to get back in?
Yes, that should work.
Especially if you know that you're gonna be listening for the doc.
Do you know when we anticipate this meeting ending today?
Probably by 12:30, hopefully.
By 12:30?
Yeah, if you need, whenever you need to leave. that's-
Yeah, I don't want to leave in the middle of.
Oh,
This
I
might be a
see.
good time to-
Yeah, sure, if you need, yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, I
absolutely.
think I don't know if you saw like the notice that I sent includes a link to the materials.
Oh, you're looking at all of
Oh,
that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
good time.
Yeah, so Supervisor Friend did tell me that he said, if he applies, I will tell him. I think you're a shoo-in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to just assume that it was, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand he's got the processes to go through.
Yeah, right, but I think he said he'd be able to be on the next agenda, so it could be after.
I think he was saying like.
Oh,
end
you
of the
talked
month or
to,
something
yeah,
like
okay,
that.
great.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah.
okay,
Awesome.
Thanks so much for
Yeah,
coming in.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
look
great
forward
to see
to
you.
being a part of it.
Definitely, yeah, all right, thank you for working it into your life.
Oh, yeah, no worries, I'm juggling work and we've got new doctors today.
Oh, right.
From my wife before she goes to work.
Oh, right, yeah.
The whole thing, but.
Oh, okay.
Hey, beautiful, you've got a text message.
Okay. Oh.
Kevin had to leave.
Oh, Fred had to leave?
Yeah,
Okay. He seems very nice.
yeah, I think he'll be
I don't
great.
think we have any difficulty working. He
Yeah.
just fit right in.
Yeah, I think he'll be great.
We're offline, nobody can hear us.
I'm back.
Hi, Linda.
I apologize for the couple disappearances. Our homeowner's insurance adjuster is coming up, supposed to be here at 10, and he was calling because he's been up and down Bear Creek unable to find our road.
Oh, goodness.
And his cell phone doesn't work up here and it kept cutting out. So so hopefully my husband's down there with a sign and on the road and on Bear Creek Road, and hopefully they are connecting.
Linda, I so appreciate with everything going on for you that you could even be at the meeting today. Thanks very much for all the work that you do for us. I know how tough things have been at your house. And I just want you to know that you have my appreciation for making time for this meeting even today.
Well, thank you. I've been on the on with feral gas because we've been without propane, so no hot water for about a week. and talked to them early this morning about would they be able to send a propane truck, again, 17 Summit, Bear Creek, to get our tank filled. So they're talking to their logistics person, and they're supposed to call me back and let me know if they will be able to make a delivery or not. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. So because of the time and we're just getting into old business, if there's anything that the board wants to defer to the next meeting, that's perfectly okay.
I think we'll be able to get through our agenda. So let's wait about that. I have a feeling we'll be able to walk right through this pretty quickly.
Okay.
Okay,
I missed something on the agenda here. Oh, there we go. It's there.
we're on 9A. Okay.
Oh, shoot. Do you, for this item, would you like us to pull up the website information? Like an estimation.
This is specific to
Sure.
goal
Let's
6.
pull up the website information. If we've got it handy, sure. So item 9A is a subcommittee report back from Commissioner Phillips and myself with an overview on the CDI department website regarding the HRC. We heard a little bit about this earlier that came out when during Peter's presentation. Linda, would you like to open up the conversation and share what we've discussed?
Okay, and then as far as any, I guess, comments in regard to, like you, goal 6, let's wait till we get to goal 6, because there is background here on the website and so on.
Great. Okay,
So,
great.
so Barry and I had to meet via phone, so I have written out comments for my report. So the HRC website subcommittee members, Barry Perlman and
Oh, you're frozen, Linda.
Department section of the Santa Cruz County government website. We first approached the charge of evaluating the HRC website by examining the content, completeness, accuracy, and user-friendliness of the content. Did the HRC website clearly and succinctly describe the purpose, responsibilities, and duties of the Historic Resources Commission? Also, did the website list supervisors, commissioners, and planning department senior analyst staff and their contact information, as well as meeting dates and times? What we found was the website is divided into 2 sections and resides in 2 different areas on the Santa Cruz County Planning Department website. The first website resides under the Planning Department general area and provides an overview of what the HRC is, its responsibilities, meeting days and times, contact information for agendas, minutes, and materials, and Planning Department staff contact information. The second website resides under the Planning Department Sustainability Planning area. It gives succinct historical overview of the Santa Cruz County, describes the county code defining historic resources and procedure for designating them as historic and modifying them. This area also identifies the advanced planning staff for maintaining the inventory and overseeing the updating of resources and information. There are also 4 links leading to additional information. On the positive side, the subcommittee feels that the website overall is very well done, contains both a wide amount of useful information, and certain areas go in depth. Overall, the website gives a good background for the user to get acquainted with the HRC. However, areas that we felt needed improvement, neither website is easy to find. Putting Historic Resources Commission into the homepage search takes you to a link to contact the staff liaison and doesn't go anywhere else. To reach the HRC website, the user must know that is listing under the planning department. And the question is, what percentage of the average user would know that? And then once you're in the planning department, then you find it under sustainability. So let's see. Now this is what she has here. So this slide here is the second website.
Correct.
And the only way I could reach that, and I went through all the different search bars, was by putting in the exact URL, which Barry was only able to get through his phone. And that ends with and so that was very hard to find, but
Got a text message.
that ended. Hang on just a second. I think it. Sorry, the insurance adjuster just showed up. So both websites had very good information, but they aren't linked together. They're both hard to find for the average user. And there could be updates and improvements to make them more valuable and provide more resources to the user.
An example of such could be that we could have a blank DPR.
Was that?
As part of our presentation on the website for anybody curious and about registering their property. So we like what's there. Access is the key difficulty. And once we can make it more accessible, a little bit of grooming will be helpful. I'm very fortunate, I feel we are very fortunate that we had Peter to hear this morning, because to tell you the truth, the support of the CAO's office is very important to get this done. So by their understanding what we want better, they'll help us get it accomplished, and they'll support the planning department in doing so.
Yeah, if I could just make a comment too, so all the departments will be updating their websites to align with sort of the approach for the overall county website is taking. So, we can certainly think about ways where it's easier to access the HRC with fewer submenus sometimes. And get your input when.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Getting the submenu sequenced properly. So how about this idea? This subcommittee.
Oh, right. So this is what, sorry, Natisha bring this, but this is what.
Thank you, Natisha.
This is what's on the main website now, which is it's a nice prominent link.
Is that brand new?
Yeah, right. There's a nice prominent box that has commissions and.
Wow, that's
This looks great.
That's what Peter was referring to.
Committees.
Yeah.
So
Oh, great.
That's nice.
Now,
Yeah.
is that active now? If we clicked into that, would we get to us?
I don't know, let's see.
Yes,
So
it is
I just,
active.
So that's what you just
So
pulled
if-
up for education, yeah.
Correct. This is the homepage, the new homepage of the county. It's a nice new format, and hopefully, in the near future, we should be getting an update similar to this new kind of sleeker sort of format that's a little easier to access. But you can see the Historic Resources Commission is available with 2 clicks from the main website.
That's
Okay,
nice,
just
much
from
more
quick-
contemporary.
Right now, the only thing loaded
Correct,
for us,
yeah.
see, it brings us to all that, great.
So I just went into the home page for the county, and all I could get when I put in the search bar for the HRC is contact information to Annie. So that's not what I see. And I just did it 2 minutes ago.
You need to scroll down to see the quick links, and that's where the commissions are listed. But you might be right that maybe we can, talk with
so
IT
for the
about getting
average
the
user,
search to be a little bit more direct.
what I see is government departments, there is no going down. There seems to be some updating and changing going on right now on the website and the different pages and so on. So maybe this subject should be something that we take up again in either at the April or July meeting and see what changes have been implemented on the website and go from there. So we're not duplicating or talking about something that's already in process.
That's an excellent idea. It's a good way to handle it. And why don't we position this on our next quarterly meeting agenda as old business and do an update on the status of the website
If you put in
at
Santa
that
Cruz County, do
time.
you get this new format? I wonder, some of the people, you are sometimes.
And I will pass on the input from the commission regarding, fewer sort of submenus to access.
Great, and what we can do is we can keep this item as a recurring old business item as the improvements are being made. They'll probably be made in phases, so we can either visit this every meeting or every other meeting and follow the progress of the improvement of the county website. Everybody like that idea? Shall we move along? Linda, yes?
Yes, and I do have a quick question, and maybe this is for Natisha. Barry and I also were looking at the other website, and in that, under our rich historic heritage, is the contact statement. And also in the one you were just showed, it had kind of an overview. Will we be allowed to recommend changes to the actual content in there, such as an overview of the history of Santa Cruz County?
Yeah, I can work with you on that. We can certainly add additional
Great.
information there.
Okay,
Yep, exactly.
perfect. Thank you. Yes, so are we looking at the April meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. And Linda, you and I can, our subcommittee, let's connect by telephone and determine a protocol for the subcommittee to go from here forward.
Thank you. Yes, good idea.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll retire item 9A and move to item 9B, a report from another subcommittee with Commissioner Woods and Perlman. Neil, may I ask you to present this?
Sure. Well, our subcommittee took this on to submit a proposed budget for our committee, but subsequent to us completing this letter, we were informed that it was probably unrealistic for us to try and achieve that. So I don't know that this letter gets necessarily forwarded to the supervisors, but maybe we keep it as of record for right now until the economic winds change. Annie has suggested in the letter, the email back, that that her department could be helpful in providing some materials and things to help fill in. One of the things that Barry and I discussed is that for the Historic Resource Commission for this year, and that was the 3 different areas that we put into the letter, is obviously partaking of the history fair for the MA. We don't have a date on that yet, but I think it's going to be sometimes in May. I did stop by the other day, and the receptionist there did not have an idea, so when that was. So I don't know if that's been decided yet or not. Secondly, we have discussed a no-cost way to try and achieve more notoriety, and that would be picking off of the Santa Cruz farmers markets. We think demographically, the people that support the farmers markets align pretty much with some of our endeavors with the Historic Resource Commission. So we're simply looking at taking the booth that we developed for MA and using it in those situations with better weather as we come around to nicer weather, and taking that booth, the elements that we have, and get involved in what they call tabling events, where we can have a table or location there. So part of what our budget was is to have our own table and some things, but Annie has suggested we might have that equipment available to us from the county, just some modest things that we need. Signage, we can work on that maybe later on. And then of course the third was continuing to educate ourselves through the webinar series that is provided. And I confess I've not taken advantage of that, but I have started watching those again, the links that Annie had provided for us. So those are the 3 foundations for the letter. The dollar amount added up to right around $5,000, but understanding the budget constraints that we have at this point in time, I would defer to what Annie had told us we need to be aware of at this point. So I don't think that we vote here to move this letter forward to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Neil. I concur as the other subcommittee member. We had originally developed this to propose this for an item that would be voted on and passed back up to the planning department. However, we have budget constraints that have been brought to our attention. Now, that does not mean, I want to make this clear, that we can't do anything. What it means is that we don't have any increase in funding currently, but there are funds put aside for training and for some overhead so that we will be able to maintain our commitment to an annual training. We do have the funds for that. We wanted to expand that. We can't expand it, but we can maintain it. We will be able to attend the MA Fair. We won't have as elegant a booth as we would have wished for with professional signage made. Okay, Neil and I determined that as long as we're seeing a pattern with a return to the MA Fair and the need to reuse a booth for promotion that we had last year, that we might as well build a permanent standing available booth kit that we could also use for marketing at the farmers markets and other things. What we will be doing as an interim is we'll be bringing tablecloths from home instead of purchasing tablecloths. If that synopsizes the approach that we'll use while we're in a holding pattern for further funding in the future. So let's retain this letter as a report from the subcommittee. Let's keep it in our record, and let's bring it forward at a future time to revisit when we have an opportunity to receive increased funding. Does that seem to be clear understanding to everybody?
Well stated.
Yes, I
Yes.
just also wanted to comment, I know that's in my email, but there is a line item in the budget for $250 for incidental expenses to be shared between the HRC and the Commission on the Environment. So you know, that provides a little bit of a resource for,
Petty cash out.
yeah, for materials that,
Sure,
or equipment that you really need that the county doesn't have, you know,
Right,
so that
right.
is available, will be available.
so,
Assuming that's approved by the board, actually, that's another caveat. but-
right, so we do have an approved amount for some petty cash, which was an earlier issue that is now resolved. Okay, that's very good. Just to share with the public and with the other people in our meeting, what Neil and I were discussing as part of our marketing plan to increase the visibility of the HRC, what you're looking at in the, in our report for the second line item and the 2850 number, that includes creating a brochure to hand out. Okay, so we won't have the professional brochure right now. Perhaps we can generate some cost-effective materials that need petty cash for printing that we can write ourselves and develop ourselves.
And the county does have printing services here, so.
Great.
So that wouldn't have to come out of this petty cash amount, so.
Good. Okay, so that's just for clarification's sake. Let's retire the report from the subcommittee, include it in our archives, and note that we'll revisit it at a future time.
And can I just make one other comment on the budgeting process? So how the budgets work is each department submits a budget to the Board of Supervisors, and then they approve that. Oftentimes they'll actually pick it back and say, we need you to cut more. But so typically, you could also consider, you know, approaching the planning department, requesting additional money in the budget, because it has to be, the money in the budget has to be aligned with a certain department. So it can be, you know, more effective, I think, rather than approaching the board directly and asking to approve something to, you know, work through the CDI department. So
Everything that I have learned supports what Annie just said. So as we go forward, we're better informed on how to get a productive result. So we will take that direction. Okay. And with that, thank you, Neil, very much. And thank you for working on this with me. We'll retire that report and item 9B. And let's move to item 9C. Now, there's two parts of the goals report today. There's 9C and 9D. We're putting C, the review of action items, as the first part. And if I can bring this back to you, Linda, that would be great.
All right. So this is a review of our action items tasked from our October 3rd meeting last year, and also a review of goals not reviewed yet. What I'd like to do is for January of each year, do an overview so that we kind of refresh ourselves on some goals we haven't looked at for a year, and make sure we're up to date on the goals that we are looking at and assigning action items to. And then we will be looking at goals that we have not reviewed yet, which is the part of the 9D, to review for are they clear and accurate? Does any further action need to be required? Are they complete? Can we mark them as complete and archive them? And then lastly, review any goals that have been, there's no activity on them. They're long-term goals. And do we need to be doing any work with them, assigning any actions? So this is the agenda, the order that we'll go through with the goals and which goals we'll be looking at. So the first one of our action items is demolition by neglect. And at the meeting last year, at the last meeting, the staff said they would provide a blank watch list template specifically for demolition by neglect to be reviewed at this meeting. So Annie, where are we on the template?
So I did not actually, I provided a blank template at the last meeting. I was hoping to have an opportunity to complete a template for the commission to review, but I did not get an opportunity to do that. So I'd like to recommend that the commission look at this in April or a future meeting.
Sure.
I'll have an opportunity
Sure.
to do that.
Okay, let's take goal 3B will be revisited at our April meeting.
Okay.
Okay, may I just take a moment and I perhaps should have said this at the beginning of the meeting. I'm going to say this as a thank you. Funny to approach it, but let's recognize that we have been in extreme circumstance over the last 3 weeks with weather and emergency conditions in our county. They've affected us on every level. Annie was likely deferred to emergency services support from her regular tasking, as virtually every employee in the county was. And us as citizens have experienced a huge amount of stress, including that Linda, who lives off Bear Creek Road outside Boulder Creek, has had some extraordinary physical conditions that are unsafe and very threatening. No power, no internet. Communication has been difficult. But we're having a very effective and successful meeting in spite of that. So when we have to move a few things around, that's what we do. That's the real world. Thank you, everybody, for making this important and being here. Neil, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, so I'm just to be clear, this template that's being created, that's something that we as commissioners would have. So if we observed something in our district, this is the template that we would use to capture that information.
Correct, yes. I did provide a blank, I don't have the slide today, but I did provide a blank one at the last meeting, which has columns for, the address,
Right.
the APN, the condition of the resource with some like keys for sort of documenting that. And then I thought it would be useful for me to complete a template. I have a structure in mind that the Buckhart's Candy on East Cliff, where I can see they're not maintaining it. They need to, paint it, sort of early on, you can see if it's not being maintained, the potential problems that could occur. So I thought I'd bring that as an example.
Perfect, good.
Okay, I think, yeah, that would be awesome to just have that in our, and then secondly, just as a commissioner, do we only report on things that we see in our district or just anything at large within the county?
I would suggest that we're all at large on this one because you may, if you see it in another district, you clearly want to update and share that with the commissioner from that district. And that in taking that action of sharing it, then we're disseminating it out to the whole commission. So I think that we're all interactive district to district and support one another with any properties that come to our attention. How would you both feel about that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that sounds very good because we can't be everywhere at once.
Now, if y'all want to come down and help me with the Redmond house, that'll be just great.
Yeah, I
So
believe that,
You had to bring that up.
I believe the commission had also discussed, and you probably have that in your notes, but it also discussed like taking on, reviewing a certain number of properties each year that is in their list, in their district. So I had thought that perhaps this could be combined with that, but however the commission wants to approach
Annie,
it.
that's a marvelous idea. That's a great idea. When we revisit this, this goal, let's include a tentative guideline. I don't want to call it a schedule, but a guideline for commissioners to visit a certain number of properties per quarter in between meetings. And that way any of us can bring up anything that we see to the group that might be interesting and relevant. But we will we'll defer that as part of this and revisit the whole thing.
I believe that
continue, please.
I believe that was going to be a new goal off of the DPR form goal. And
Cool.
that's probably my fault that it is not designated as a new goal and part of this packet. So we can definitely do that as one, reviewing the DPRs we do have, and two, having this template for any that we see going into demolition by neglect.
I agree. That sounds great.
So one more quick question. At the April meeting, when Annie provides a template that is completed as an example, do we want to have another blank one with it? So we get a blank and a completed inventory by demolition by neglect form.
Yes, I can certainly provide a blank form as well.
Okay. Thank you, Annie.
Annie, was that a refreshment? Were you doing that in a spreadsheet format or was just a one-off format?
I think eventually it probably will go into a spreadsheet, but what I had done was just created a form that could be used, for documenting the condition of a historic property.
Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering if in advance there isn't a way that if we were to, somehow create the form, the document, and we had it electronically stored again downstream to be built in our database, and it would be accessible to make changes to it too, either by your authority or someone else's, but just some thoughts there.
So you're suggesting that we create a database? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking that's what we probably would want to do, as opposed to just be sort of, one-off and sort of an analog basis, that if we, from the very beginning, we want to do this, then maybe that watch list would be created in a database that would be easier to access.
That's a good suggestion.
It is, and then we're not repeating ourselves by upgrading it later. That's great. Thank you, Neil. Linda, would you care to continue with the goals work?
Yeah, I was just writing down what Neil had said there.
Sure.
Just to start off, rather than making it a step 1, step 2 process at the very beginning, make the forms electronic form that we can fill out and submit, and then they're there in a database ready to be accessed by whoever would like to look at it. Do I have that correct?
Right on the mark.
Yes.
Okay. The next one was goal number 5, the Mills program and implementation of one for our county. And Annie had some comments.
There we go. Yes, I do have comments. Your commission requested additional information regarding the cost to administer the Mills Act program. And so to get a better sense, I posted a question on the certified local government listserv, and I received 3 responses. The city of Benicia, they estimate it takes about 42 hours per contract, 25 hours to amend a contract, and the annual inspection and annual report is 3 hours per contract. The city of Ventura noted that they do pass the cost on to the applicant, which I think most communities do. Pass these costs on to, as part of the application process. They require a $600 deposit for a contract application, $500 for an inspection, and $125 for self-certification. The city of Santa Barbara said that it takes they have a full-time historic resources planner, which I wish I could be, but I'm not. And it takes about 1/3 of their time as a full-time planner just to work on Mills Act properties. So I do think that, in terms of the actual cost of administering the program, those can be passed on. I think probably the bigger issue for the county is staff time that would be required to administer the program. My work schedule is already, pretty busy right now with historic resources work, as well as my role in the policy section. And then, of course, there's also the cost to the county from a loss of property tax revenues, which is how the Mills Act works, is people who enter into a Mills Act contract receive a break on their property taxes. So I know we've talked about this before, but it may be a bit of a challenging time for the board to think about this right now during a sort of looming recession. But I do think the Mills Act is valuable. I did hear from communities that thought it was a important tool to encourage rehabilitation of structures and support the rehabilitation of structures in their community. So those are my comments.
Thank you. So where do we take this from here?
Well, I feel, Neil?
Yes, go.
So what I'm hearing is saying, great idea, really a challenge to implement under the current economic circumstances and also just from an admin point of view. I don't know where we could get this information, but it would sure be interesting to know for towns such as Santa Barbara or Ventura, kind of towns that kind of align with Santa Cruz in a way, to know what they consider a success, or what percentage of people even take advantage of the Mills Act. I haven't a clue. I mean, is this like, in Santa Barbara, is this like 10 properties, 50 properties, 100 properties? I just have no understanding of what that would be. More of a curiosity factor than anything. In other words, realistically, that if you were to want to try and do something like this and you were only doing 1 or 2 a year, that doesn't seem particularly, cost effective to have to deal with that whole thing. So if you're in a community where the Mills Act is robust and you have a lot of the historic structures taking advantage of the Mills Act, and there's a clear path of how it gets done, and you have an administrator that helps do that, I can understand that. It seems like we're a long ways away from that kind of a reality, which is unfortunate, but it seems really difficult to get there to do that.
Here's a thought, Annie. You received back information from those municipalities. Do you have a contact person from each of them that wrote back to you?
Yes.
Could we send out our question to each of them for curiosity? Can you tell us what the participation is?
Sure.
And then maybe you can update us at our next meeting of what you receive back from that question.
Okay.
That'll help fill in the first big blank, Neil.
Yeah, I think that what I'm trying to say is that, you know, in this community, if we said, hey, you guys, we've got the Mills Act that you can use. And then in 2 years, we've done one or two, right? It's like, I mean, there may be other approaches. So I just don't know how much traction the Mills Act has in these communities, how much it's being used. It'd just be interesting
We'll
to know
find
what
out.
that is.
Yeah, I think in general, it's fairly popular. So I'll ask them to find out, but I think, in fact, a lot of communities have chosen to like cap the program, you know, at a certain number because of the cost of the county or the city to administer. But yeah, I can certainly find out how many. So what are the questions you'd like to ask? How many people are enrolled? Maybe how many applications they get each year?
Yes.
Well, I just, yeah, just a sense of in a community. I mean, I would, you know, drive through Ventura. It's a big population there. You know, how many Mills Act projects are there in a year there in? It would give us some indication of what we might expect here in the community. That I'm sure there's an educational process that's involved there in terms of understanding, you know, the Mills Act. So I don't want to belabor that a lot.
Neil, let me help finish this up, I think that there are three essential questions. I think it would be great to know when they implemented the Mills Act, what year they implemented the Mills Act. Secondly, how many total properties are within the Mills Act? And thirdly, what is the annual average that they are seeing now? I think that if we had those three pieces of information from several sources, we could start to draw some conclusions about potential effectiveness. And I think that it's very proper for us to look at potential effectiveness before we move forward and make a determination of that. So I think that you're really bringing something important up. Linda,
And I think Annie indicating that some of the communities have actually limited the program, right? Or put a limit to the program would suggest that it's pretty successful if you can get involved with the program.
That's a wow. Yes, indeed. Great.
I would like to
Yes.
add a fourth question. Could you also ask what is the total number of historic properties that they have in their listing, inventory, whatever they happen to call it? So what percentage of those are under the Mills program?
Right, look at the total properties and then look at the Mills properties and try to construct a percentage. That's valuable, Linda. Good question.
Yeah.
You're really good.
I expect that other communities the county has about, I don't know off the top of my head, I think about 240. So I suspect other communities may have more resources, but yeah. So.
I have some knowledge of the history and settling of Santa Barbara County. And they have an abundance of adobes and old California properties, including preserving a lot of things from the 1920s in Santa Barbara, when a huge amount of money was spent on architecture and development of the city. So it'll be very interesting to get back their statistics. Thank you. Let's continue, Linda.
All right. The next goal that had an action item was number 6, the website. And that is currently being updated. And we've postponed or moved that into April so we can, the subcommittee can take a relook at the website and see where we are with it.
Hey, beautiful. You've got a text message.
I did have a comment I wanted to make and ask for feedback regarding commissioner contact information on the website.
Yes.
So I did add the names of the commissioners, and I know at the last meeting, oh, thank you, Natisha. At the last meeting, people had mentioned whether or not they wanted to include their contact information, and I just wanted to talk a little more about that. I did look at other commissions, and most of them are just provide, as we do here, like the commissioner in the district that they represent, and they don't have individual contact information. They do provide contact information for the staff, which we do here as well. So if we have controversial items, you may get a lot of email that may be unwanted. Sometimes members of the public can do personal attacks and various things like that. So that's one thing to be aware of. The other thing is that sometimes people they want to talk to someone in the planning department, so they'll see the name and be like, oh, I'm going to call this person. So it may end up getting, contacts unrelated to the HRC work. So, typically the role of staff is to take in correspondence and then be like, oh, let me refer you to the appropriate person on the HRC. So that's why I didn't list other contact information here, and I can still do that, but I just wanted to give the commission a little bit of context regarding that.
That is true.
Anyone want to add anything to this thread of our conversation, or should we return to the goals?
Annie, I don't mind my email being on there,
Okay.
because if it does get, out of hand, you can always just delete it.
So should we put yours up as vice chair and leave
Yes.
the others blank?
Yes, you can put up my email address.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you very much. Let's continue with our next goal.
All right. So goal number 1, training opportunities. The last time we looked at this one was back in March last year, but I feel that this is definitely one goal that should be reviewed in January to share any ideas or suggestions for training for the upcoming year. And we do have the California Preservation Conference being held in San Francisco, April 19th through 21st. We do have training budget. Is there any chance of either attending it or having some webinars, registering for some webinars?
Yes, in the past, there's typically been enough money in the training budget for the commission to attend like one day of the training. So they haven't, I've been checking the California Preservation Foundation website, and they haven't posted the registration information yet or the cost to attend. But I'm hoping that the training budget, it could be that they've increased their costing of things. It seems like everyone's raising their fees for things these days, but I'm hoping there would be enough money in the training budget to attend for one day. And then I also did see that after, I don't know if I have the dates here, but they have like a separate time for like online conference. So maybe it's just when they post everything, I don't know, but that's something we could look at too. And regarding training, I was curious, people had taken advantage of the preservation boot camp webinar series. It was, the commission had requested that the county enroll people. So we did pay the $100 registration fee for each commissioner. So I'm hoping that the commission did take advantage of that. And if not, let me know. And I think there may be a special password that we need to enter at this point, but I can certainly get that password information to the commission so that you can still take advantage of that.
Andy, if I could suggest, if you would be kind enough to distribute that password to all of us with an encouragement to use it and jump in. I have heard from most commissioners that they're poised and ready to do those.
Okay,
Several people have said that to me, so, that's an excellent idea.
yeah, because I think of,
So we will be able to look back at the webinars that were from, September and November, which I think are very valuable, and my intention would be to try to, visit all of them in the next few weeks and see the 3 webinars. I would encourage others to do the same because they're already bought and paid for. So for this year, if we're looking at 1 day's attendance of the California Preservation Foundation's fair, I believe that fair is in early April, probably I think the week following our meeting. So we would have to make a determination of our intention now. So could somebody float a motion that if we have the funding, that we would like to put that funding towards the April training and go up for 1 day to the preservation fair? Is that reasonable?
I just wanted to clarify that in the past, when we've done that, the training budget covered the fee, the registration fee. One of the commissioners provided we carpooled and shared with the gas, and we paid for our own meals. So the training budget went strictly for the registration. But being up there, being able to talk with, other representatives, other commissioners, other historic involved people from museums and galleries and so on, really was priceless to share ideas and to share what was going on. So I for one would make a motion to definitely try and put the money aside to be able to attend.
Okay, we have a motion. Neil, I see your hand up, but before I call on you, do we have a second of the motion?
sure, I did have some comments about that too before the commission votes on
Sure.
that.
Let's see if we have a second, because otherwise we don't even have anything to discuss.
Yeah, I think we have to have a second before we can discuss. So to get to
Right.
the discussion, I'll second it.
Ooh, thanks, Neil. Okay, Annie has some comment on this. I'm gonna honor her next.
So I just wanted to note that the conference is April 19th through 21st, and our meeting is April 3rd. So there would be time. I think the motion is probably fine, but I think before we actually enroll people, I would want to discuss which day we want to attend
Very
and confirm that all commissioners are available, so we're not paying for registration when someone can't actually attend it. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay, then why don't we handle this as a part A and part B? Why don't we use the current motion to support the attendance of the event? And then Annie could give us an update at the April meeting, and we could select which day we're going to register for. Does that sound reasonable? Neil?
I think that I just want to give to Annie that if we have to back down costs, it would seem to me that the chairman and vice chair might be the stronger consideration to represent and go to the meeting. Secondly, on those dates, I actually am going to be in Europe. So I would not be considered for that time frame because I'll actually be gone. I really do like the links, and I think that to be transparent here is that I've fallen behind on finishing up on the links that Annie had given to us, and I plan to, it's my personal goal, to redouble my efforts and finish those up, because what I have been following are really informative, and I really like studying that way and learning that way. definitely tremendous value to be one-on-one with people in a setting like that. But the links, I mean, there's no point in doing this if, as commissioners, I'm speaking to myself here, we don't take advantage of what we have. So I really do want to finish up on what we had. I did find your links the other day there, Annie, so I'm working through that. But A, I'll not be there during that time period. B, if it are some budget considerations, I think the chair and maybe vice chair would be paramount in attending. That would be what my thoughts might be.
I think those are very good contributions to our understanding here. And I think that we pretty much would be in agreement with you. Unless, of course, you want to take both Linda and I with you to Europe, in which case we could, just find another training opportunity.
Well,
But-
it's going to be fun. We're going to be riding our bikes through Holland during the tulip season. So
Wow.
I remember running around the Imperial Palace in Tokyo during cherry blossom season.
oh, Sakura.
And so my compliments to you on the tulips. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a motion, which is to support attending the Preservation Fair and including a report back to us at the April meeting where we will detail our moving forward. So I think this is a motion to support the concept, and then in April, we can work on the details. Closing discussion. Let's vote on the concept to support the California Preservation Fair in April and to make our specific determinations about it at the April meeting, 3 weeks ahead. Let's call for a vote. Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Woods.
Aye.
And Commissioner Pearlman, aye. Okay. We've just put that into our planning. That's a great thing to come out of a goal review. A compliment to you, Linda. And let's continue with the next goal.
Okay. This is just to kind of bring attention to goal number 2, cleanup of historic resources inventory. The last time it was looked at was in January 2021, and it was put on hold due to the coronavirus and direction of the Board of Supervisors to work remotely. And we did not have any intern or staff to be able to update the inventory. So this has been on hold since then. So is there any comments on this, or should we leave it until the circumstances have changed and we feel that we have either the funding to hire an intern or there is staff available to implement the updates that we're turning into to Annie?
Well, I'd like to make a comment on that, Linda. And I think we can move forward now if y'all agree with me. Right now, we have 2 subcommittees that have just presented and have done the bulk of their work. So we have somewhat of an open space to take on work. I'm going to propose that we start to look into an intern now. I'm going to propose that we set up a subcommittee to investigate an intern relationship with a Cabrillo College student. And we could have an update and some information reporting back on that at our next meeting. And that would tangentially support this goal. By moving forward with learning about an intern, and we may not get that person until next fall, but nonetheless, it's not too early to examine it and look at it with a subcommittee. I would volunteer to be an active part of that subcommittee myself, because I really like the idea of the intern to help us get the work done. So, is that an idea that the other commissioners like, or care to comment on?
If I can make a comment as
Sure.
well. So there is a county process that you have to go through for an intern. So I can work with the subcommittee, but there's a process for doing that. We did actually get one intern for our department currently, and I was hopeful that they would be able to assist with this, but they're actually being used to work on a housing element right now, unfortunately. So, but I think the committee is still fine, because we may end up needing to bring in another person, since it sounds like this person's time may not be available.
Yeah, they might be, the housing thing might take up all their time.
Right, but yeah, I can work with the subcommittee on that.
That's excellent. That's great. So it looks like we have the makings of a subcommittee. If you like that idea that we should move forward investigating an intern at this time.
I have a comment.
Having an
Yes,
intern
sir.
for the commissioners is good. I believe this goal was to actually go into the county database and input data into the inventory, correcting incomplete, inaccurate data. So this would be somebody working under the county planning department supervision. So are we talking about two different intern positions?
I think that in the last statement you made, you nailed it accurately. What we're looking for is to assist the planning department in bringing in another intern that would specifically be able to work on historic inventory.
Yeah, I think the other piece of that too is that as the historic planner, I would also need to discuss with Stephanie and think about my time available, because I'll also be working in housing elements.
Because you're gonna be the person that would be the go-to person for that. intern.
Right, we're not just gonna be able to turn them
Correct.
loose. And
That's, no, I recognize, it's sensitive.
Yeah.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, but we can certainly talk about that too, and maybe think about an appropriate time frame where this could happen.
Yes, so I suggest that we start up the committee, the subcommittee, to come back with updated reports on the considerations of an intern. Can anybody float such a motion for us?
I'll make a motion for a subcommittee. And so since there's only three of us, Neil, do you want to be on this subcommittee, or I'll be on it with Barry?
I'll be on the committee with Barry, because you're doing a Yale man's job on these goals and everything.
You're not kidding.
So I'll help with Barry on this, because I'm really interested, I guess, in getting our arms around our inventory in our county.
It's really becoming more and more critical, and it is years that there has been no updates on our inventory.
It worries me greatly.
Yeah. This is becoming a very high priority. So I will make a motion to form a subcommittee of Chair Barry Perlman and Commissioner Neil Woods to work with our staff, Annie Murphy, to find an intern to assist with planning department HRC inventory.
Second.
Thank you. I don't think we need further discussion unless someone has anything further to add. Let's call for a vote. Commissioner Phillips.
Okay, so now we've progressed to.
Hold on, Linda, we have to.
Well, Linda, we're voting.
Sorry.
We have to vote the subcommittee into existence. So Commissioner Phillips, how do you vote on this?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Woods?
Aye.
Commissioner Perlman, aye. Okay, this is our new subcommittee. We will come back with an update of our preliminary investigations for the April meeting. Okay, Linda, now let's continue going. I think we're making huge progress today on this. This is great.
Well, these are new goals that we have not looked at yet. We have not done evaluation, so we're moving through them. So goal number 7, participate in local history preservation events. As you remarked, as we know, last May, we attended the history fair that was held at MAW. The last activity on this goal was back in October 2020. What the commission was viewing at that time, and we were eyeing the website as being a location where people interested in what was happening locally for in history events could go to our website and see the Landmark Awards Committee, the blue plaques. They could see a history fair. They could see, as we're talking about, information tables at farmers market. Make some connections and ask questions about maybe their own property. And the last one was also putting Alberta's book on there so they could see what some local history books were. But these were ideas we never really kind of, capsulized what all we wanted to do, what was realistic, what was the right venues to put all of this information, whether it should be, what should be included with us and what should have other venues. So for this goal, we definitely can say that we are participating, but do we want to put together a strategy on how we want to go about doing this to kind of focus what our commission is can do?
Good question. Do you have any more that you'd like to share on that? Any other thoughts? You are holding anything back from us?
So right now, I think regularly we participate in the Landmark Awards, which is handing out the blue plaques, because we hand out certificates of appreciation to owners, developers, builders who maintain or preserve historic structures on our inventory. And it looks like we want to be annually a participant in the history fair, wherever it's held.
I personally would agree with you that we do want to continue to participate in the history fair. I would also suggest that we might want to expand our visibility by also participating in at least one event held this year at the Museum of Natural History over in Seabright. I know that they do events throughout the year, and I think we could pick one of their events, an open house perhaps, and have an information table that could be a duplicate of what we do at the Ma Fair, but perhaps to a different audience. So I'd like to include that as a consideration. What do the rest of you think about that? Neil?
Are there other, I mean, we keep referring to the MA History Fair, but are there other events? I mean, you've raised the natural history. I'm not necessarily sold on that, because people might be more biology minded in terms of natural history, then we can talk about that. But are there other events that are held countywide or done with even some of the other groups, or are there other events? I'm just not aware of any other events.
Well, the
I
landmark
think
awards,
we-
the landmark awards, we started participating, what, Annie, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? So,
Something like that, yeah.
so we're a new participant. That's been going on for quite some time. And that is the Blue Plaque Awards from MAW. Well, the Blue Plaques from the Landmark Committee, the Santa Cruz City Preservation Council that gives out awards. And I think there's one or two other groups. And we said we want to be a part of it. We want to hand out certificates of participation. And we've handed out about what, 6 or 7 certificates?
But is this at a banquet event or something, or is this just done
No.
individually?
No, this is a group held at MAW on the first Saturday of the month at about what, 10 o'clock. So so I've gotten up and I've made the presentation, for example, and had the owners or the architect or the builder get up and hand them the certificate. And then the next group, say the Santa Cruz City of Preservation, gets up and hands out their certificates. So there's 4 or 5 different groups that does this. But of those 2, I'm not sure of any other annual event that's held that has a specific historical focus to it.
Not countywide, I don't believe there is. There may be what I'm going to call regional events conducted by the individual local museums, but I don't think there's any countywide event. I'm concerned with, I'd like to say 2 things here. One is we discussed recognizing and honoring the restoration of the Aptos Street property that had the fire. But we deferred it and never returned to it. And we never did our actual recognition to them. It sounds like this presenting an acknowledgement to them at this Saturday morning monthly event would be the appropriate way to recognize them. And when the project on 8th Avenue is completed, we may also want to recognize them, because remember, they came before our commission with their plans for the atrium to connect the 2 parts of the Victorian. So when that's completed, that may be something we want to recognize as well. So I think we may be on the cusp of increasing our participation and coordination with the other historic recognitions that are going on.
Barry, if I can just make a comment, we did send a certificate to the owner of the property in Aptos Street.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But at the time, the Museum of Art and History, they may be going back to in person. For the past couple of years, they've just been doing an online thing because of the COVID situation, so.
So I'm sorry that I had did not wish to misstate that, but we did complete our certificate of appreciation to the Aptos Street property. I think that we've done a good job of upping the ante here. I think that history preservation events are now fully on our radar, and we have a way to respond with at least one booth concept. So I see a great deal of progress happening on this goal ongoing. I think we can leave it there and continue.
Do we want to consider this goal as closed? Or do we want to keep, looking at it, say, you know, once a year as a kind of a review.
I say that we could close it as an open item and put it onto an annual January review.
Okay,
As a report that we do in January about last year's participation and this year's plans. But meanwhile, as a goal, I think we can retire as an item. Do the other commissioners feel that way?
so this can be closed and archived?
I think so.
All
Neil, what do you
right.
say? I'm seeing a nod from Commissioner Woods, so I think he's in agreement.
Okay,
I
thank
was
you.
muted, yes.
All right.
Good, let's keep going.
All right, so goal number 8, again, the last time, so it's creating video walking tours. This goes back to January 2019. And back then, when we were looking again at the website and trying to think of how we could be more engaged with the community, with local history. We knew of some people that were doing walking tours. We were thinking maybe we could get that, do a video, and again, stick it on the HRC website that people could download and do their own walk around historic neighborhoods. Not sure if that's viable or not, but it was one we were talking about. So Neil?
Well, admirable, and would obviously be a fantastic thing if produced and put on there. I find this a very challenging goal, and I would just table this goal for now for what we have on our plate. Less for us to do better, I think, should probably be our mantra. And this just seems, in the light of all that we're trying to do, particularly our inventory and things, you know, a big goal for us to try and achieve right now. And I think we should just table this goal.
I would agree with that myself. Looking at the financials.
Last 4 years, because of COVID and so many, I think a lot of the museums and have ended up using their own websites and their own resources to provide videos, walking tours, podcasts, and so many things that were not happening back in 2018 and 2019 at the local history level. So for us to do it, I don't think we need to do it. I think it's redundant. And you're exactly right. I think we have a lot higher priorities on our plates that we need to focus on at this time.
Are you suggesting that we close this goal and eliminate it, or that we defer it for a year before revisiting?
I think we can close it.
Neil agrees with that. I agree with that. I think we can just
Yes.
close it.
Okay. Thank
Please
you.
continue.
All right. So the next one is let me get the spreadsheet. So the last time we talked about this, I have on the spreadsheet as January 6, 2020. The topic was really about trying to get more funding for the commission as discretionary. And what we wanted to do was to try and get some grant funding that was available through CLG grants. And so that we could update contact statements, do some of the work that we feel needed to be done. The issue was that any grants that were applied for though we can certainly do some of the lifting. The heavy detailed part of it would need to be done by county staff, planning department staff, probably Annie. So this ended up being just left open, and we have not discussed it. We just made it a goal. So I know that last year there was CLG, that there was leftover funding that they had to give out, and they were asking for just submit paperwork because we need to have this money dispersed by the end of the year. And I know they do have various grants for different things. So Annie, can you provide any information on this? What's realistic? What can be done? What can the commission do?
Sure, let's see. So we did receive that information about the pass-through grant. I need to follow up with them because I don't remember the exact amount. I think it was a few $1,000s. So thank you for bringing that up, actually, because that could also, I think, be used towards, like, if the money in the budget for training for attending the
Right.
preservation workshop isn't sufficient, it could probably be used towards that. There is a fair amount of paperwork that needs to be done for that pass-through grant, so I'll need to do that. In terms of applying for CLG grants outside of that pass-through grant, I believe the applications are normally due in May, and the process of applying for the grant also takes a lot of staff hours to complete the application. They ask for a lot of writing and how you're going to, accomplish it and who's going to do it. And so anyway, that takes some work too.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I don't see staff time available for me between now and May to be able to complete a grant application. But, perhaps next year could be a time to revisit this again, or I probably more realistically revisit it like in October, when there would actually be
Keep it
enough time
open.
to think about what you'd want to use it for and what the categories are that the Office of Historic Preservation issues grants for. So, the commission could consider revisiting it like in the fall. That would be my suggestion.
I like that. If we started in the fall working on an application, it would make it much easier to complete for the May deadline. The way the county operates, to my knowledge, is it's very difficult to launch and complete something in a 2-month to 3-month timetable. So I think that Annie's very poignant in suggesting a October revisit. Can we defer item goal number 11 for our October agenda? And then revisit it with a brief conversation, see where we stand then.
Okay.
I could also include in the packet, I'm gonna say I could also include in the packet for October information from the Office of Historic Preservation on the grant program.
Great.
Categories.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Thank you, and let's continue with goal 12.
Okay. So this is the California Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit. And again, this is going back to the website. We had also talked about having a link so that to sources of funding that owners of historic, or I imagine builders, could apply for rehabilitation, restoration, repairs. And the California Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit was one source, though there hasn't been any funding since they established it. But I guess in this latest budget for this year, there is funding now. But Annie, you were going to make some comments about this.
Right, yeah, so The only information I could find, which I included in packet, was actually from 2022. So I did reach out to the Office of Historic Preservation, and they will be posting information about 2023. But I actually looked further into this, and it only applies, the only properties that are eligible are properties that are on the California Register of Historic Resources that are like privately owned. So really, it only would apply to one property in the county, which is the Mystery Spot. Other properties like the Felton's, covered bridge are owned by the county. So, I don't think, I don't know if the commission would want to go to the trouble of posting a bunch of information about this tax credit when it's only probably might potentially apply to one property in the county, but in terms of the other comment, Linda, about links to other, funding sources, I think, that certainly makes sense to me. So,
Well, if we only have one property in our county that qualifies for a historic rehabilitation tax credit, then I would say that we can encourage the Mystery Spot, that it exists. Maybe we send them a letter from the commission informing them that there's an available grant to them and encouraging them to look into it. By doing that, we would have fulfilled this goal if that's the only property. So we may be able to remove this goal. Linda, what's your thinking?
Well, I have a question, Annie. What about inventory properties that are on the national register?
So right, there is separate money available for properties that are on the national register. That's why I had mentioned, the broader idea of providing information about other funding sources, that seems worthwhile.
Because we do have, and I don't know how many, but I know we do have, ones that are on the national register that I don't know. And it just occurred to me from the storms, if any of those were damaged, and they would be able to get some funds for repairs.
I was going to make a report about storm damaged properties. I did check into, I can do that now since we're on the subject. I did talk with our building staff, and they've done about 1,000 inspections, and they, of the properties that were red or yellow tagged anyway, that had significant damage, none of them were on inventory, which is a good thing, actually. And I'll keep checking in with staff about that. Yeah, fortunately, there weren't any properties that sustained significant damage that are historically designated that we've identified to date.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, being that this goal 12 is very specific about the, it doesn't say, yes, it's
That's
because
an
of
error.
California.
Yeah, that's an error, actually, because I looked into it further. So this says right now, only properties in the state or national list, but it's actually just the state Register of Historic Resources, not the federal. So
if it's not federal and it's state and there's only one property, I suggest we have hit a point where we can retire this goal. Would you guys agree with me or not?
So is there an action item on this? Are you requesting that as an action item, Annie send a letter to the Mystery Spot, or not,
Yes,
since it's only one?
I didn't get that specific. I don't want to overload Annie. Unless if it's appropriate that it come from her, I'd be willing to write them a letter, but maybe just a short letter of information to the Mystery Spot, informing them that they potentially may qualify for a California Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit. By doing that, we would be fulfilling this goal and it would no longer need to remain open. And whether and who the letter comes from is incidental. We can determine that now. But if we do send them a letter, we have fulfilled this goal. There are no other qualifying properties.
Question.
So, any question, would it be okay to come from the chairman of the commission as an information letter or from you?
I think that's probably.
I have a
fine.
question.
Oh, I can write it this
Okay,
week.
okay, and I can send you a link to the California Office of Historic Preservation website too.
So that we can forward that link to them.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll forward the link. That's great.
Question.
Okay,
Question.
yes,
Question.
yes, Neil.
So just to be clear, I mean, what Annie identified that, this is the only property that qualifies. I'm just asking this question, is this the commission's responsibility to be aware of properties that qualify, or do the properties, when they look at a need, look at their resources via attorneys or contacting us? I'm not quite clear, like how, if we're taking this as a responsibility to let someone know, then do we miss someone in the future because we haven't been on top of it? I'm not quite sure what the mechanism is or how often or what the requirement is. I'm not quite understanding that.
I can make a comment on that. It's not, we can certainly look at that maybe next time to review again the powers and duties of the commission, but certainly not a duty of the commission to inform property owners of grants that may be available to them. I think it's sort of going above and trying to assist property owners, but it's certainly not required or expected that the commission do this.
Yeah, I just worry that we take on a responsibility that is really not necessary for us to take, well-meaning, no question about it. But
Neil,
I'm
I
not
agree
sure
with
that's-
you, and that's why I am trying to close out this goal. The only reason we're doing it is that at an earlier time, we ourselves identified this as a goal. It is
Yes.
not on us. We took it on. Now that we have a better understanding of it, we can write one letter that fulfills our obligation to goal 12, and we can close and retire goal 12, and it is not our responsibility to inform everyone of every possibility.
But how did it become our responsibility to inform the mystery spot?
Just because we created goal 12, it came out of our own conversations as a group to put this on. We don't have to inform the mystery spot. We can close this goal without doing anything. I'm suggesting that with a simple letter, we've closed the goal and fulfilled the one potential candidate.
So did it go like this? We identified the goal, then staff, Annie came back and said, well, your goal that you guys have established, as it turns out, within the county, there's only one property that qualifies for that. Am I understanding that, how that worked?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I just hate to set a precedent there. I think maybe our goal was well-intentioned, but I'm feeling a little like, is that really our responsibility to, maybe we didn't catch this at the time and discuss this properly. Is this really our responsibility to inform someone, oh, by the way, you're one of the two properties, or you're one of the only properties in the county that can take advantage of this? I don't know that that's our role necessarily. I'm not sure.
I agree with you. I also, if I may take just a moment, I think what you're including in your thought is that by being proactive with the mystery spot, we may be creating a protocol that needs parallel follow-up in the future, and maybe we don't need to get engaged in that. I think that's what you're saying. And,
Exactly.
and my opinion is that I agree with you. Linda, let me call on you.
I was just wanted to, I think, clarify some of the background that this goal came about because
You froze.
is for helping people with repairing and their historic property. And this was a new tax credit that was offered. We did not know that it was only California inventory. We thought it would be available locally to
Yes.
our historic resources. And our view was put it on the website so it'd be on the impetus of people looking for
Yes.
them to find it, not for us. So the promotion word was promoting it through the website to have a avenue with, and then hopefully we were hoping that if we ever got the Mills Act or whatever, but at this point, I agree, maybe it should be just closed out with the idea that down the road, if the county ever does develop, or there are other avenues, grants or whatever from, say, Community Foundation that would be available for people on our inventory to apply for, that could be on our website, but we are not spending time. We're not asking Annie or any of her coworkers to spend time with
Or
promoting
Barry.
that.
Thank you, correct. I agree with that. I believe that we have a consensus to close out goal 12 with no activity. That we're informed, thank you to staff for informing us, and that looking at the updated information we have, goal 12 can be closed and not revisited. We can launch a different goal as appropriate. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's close 12.
All right. So I was just then going to review the action items that have been archived. So if you had any questions about that you didn't feel they should be archived yet, but this is what was archived this last year, 2022, was number 10. That was a training presentation that we requested from Joe Mikulak. That was done. Goal number 13, which was a review of a DPR form. And in fact, we're going to be, so she provided the blank and a completed form for us at the last meeting. And goal number 14, which was to look at the HRC budget and discuss how much how that budget in the planning department was divided among us. And Annie had some comments about goal number 12. Oh, we already did that. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So that's done. And so the only goal I have left is 3A, which is demolition ordinances. And there were two new demolition code or amendments that were to be brought to this meeting, and Annie has some comments on them.
Yes, I believe at the October meeting, I believe that I indicated that I would be bringing these to the commission in April. So that is still the plan, to bring these two ordinances for your commission in April. So that will be, that will probably be a big agenda item for April that will take some time to go through.
What, these two action items?
These two, right, an ordinance that would be requiring structures that are 50 years old or older to receive a demolition permit and review by
Right.
planning staff,
Right.
and then adding additional uses for structures on the inventory where such use can support a viable use for the property and support repair and restoration. So, yes.
Great, let's revisit those. Okay, and Linda, I believe that covers both parts of your report, does it not?
Yes, it does. Yay.
Linda, thank you so much. You're maintaining and staying current with our goals reporting is a difficult part of our overall work, and you do it just with a stellar performance, and thank you so much for this. It keeps
you.
us on track.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Okay, with that done, I believe that we have completed our last item of new business, of old business, 9D. And I believe we can move on to the next agenda item. Does anybody have anything to present for item 10, commissioner presentations and informal items?
No.
Okay, great. How about Annie's updates, number 11, staff updates on the.
Let's see, so I reported on the situation on the winter storms, which is good news. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that Commissioner Phillips forwarded me information regarding a property on Empire Great in Bonnie Doon where they had a tree damage their property, which I think was storm related. So I will reach out to them and let them know the process for applying for repairs and of their home. I understand their intention is to do it with, like materials and that sort of thing. So, so I'll reach out to them. The other thing I have to report on is the fairgrounds. They are looking to demolish 2 barns on the property. And I've been in touch with the fair board regarding that and looking at whether any historic review would be required of the barns. So the DPR really does mainly focus on the Rogers House and the water tower. But I'm looking at that and can report back again in April regarding that.
I'd like to add a little bit of detail on that last item regarding the fairgrounds and the confusion on tearing down the 2 barns. The 2 barns are in great disrepair. They do not meet code. They were built in the 1950s, okay? And the condition of the 2, they're display barns used at the county fair for displaying livestock. This past fall, the fairgrounds determined that the condition of those barns was dangerous for citizens to go inside them. So they closed off the barns and they constructed a tent for the purpose of displaying livestock. So they're discussing, their board at the fairgrounds is discussing tearing down the barns. The hang up to that is a very simple technical protocol. When the Rogers House got its historic designation, it received a designation assigned to its parcel number. However, the entire fairgrounds shares that parcel number, so they're worried that they need our permission to tear down the 1950s barns. It's a matter of semantics more than reality. Okay, clearly the barns are not historic, were not intended to be historic, and the barns did not get the designation. But in writing up the designation, they're on the same legal parcel. So we're going to let this get as far as it can in settling down. And let's let the attorneys for the fairgrounds find a way around it. And if there's anything further to report, either Annie will update us or we'll bring it forward to the group.
I just wanted to clarify on that. there, you know, we do have to make sure they comply with the code requirements. And so when a property is listed as a historic resource, we do need to make sure that no further historic review is required. So I do, you know, I'm working with them to make sure that we do follow the code requirements. So I just want to clarify.
Thank you, and thank you for clarifying as well.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Okay, so, there we go. That's the staff update. That takes us to item 12, which is written communications. And I will, defer to Andy to present a couple things.
Okay, let's see. So, I sent you as later correspondence, the Department of Transportation, reported that they are, proceeding with the scour repair of the bridge in Boulder Creek. I don't know if you all remember that your commission looked at this and provided comments, that the bridge, even though it wasn't listed, your commission felt that it contributed to the historic character of the San Lorenzo Valley. So the Department of Transportation wanted to share that they are not altering the bridge, and they acknowledged your comments. So I thought that was a positive outcome from your input. And then there's a letter from Becky Steinbruner requesting that, I need to look at this letter again, requesting that the commission, let's see. It's regarding wildfire risks and noting that there's a number of historic structures in the wildland urban interface area, and requesting a letter of support from HRC to strengthen the application, regarding, grant application, and that it may help support them receiving the grant if they take into account preservation of historic resources. So this is just a letter that she submitted to the commission.
I would like to comment on this very briefly. Annie is bringing this to the commission as an obligation to share all written correspondence sent to the commission. What this letter really says is this is advice to a private party, that if that private party wants our support, that person should write to us. Let me share that that person has not chosen to write to us, so we have nothing to discuss. Becky is not asking for anything. She is encouraging the person to write to us with their request. We have received no such request. We're going to retire this letter into our archive pending any request that might come up in the future. So that item is over. I want to go back and comment on the last one that Annie brought to us regarding the Boulder Creek Bridge. Friends, congratulations. We have succeeded as a commission. This is a success. Our recommendation was to scour the project and not change the bridge. And that's what they decided to do. We have a success. We could write a press release on this to our local media saying historic resources project recommendation fulfilled, keeping the old Boulder Creek Bridge. And that would be a way to start to get known. So I'd like to write a little press release and send it to the Sentinel, the Pajaronian, the Good Times, and Lookout.
And who's gonna do
Why
that?
not? I don't think we need a motion or anything on that. But why don't we just write a little letter? Because we participated in this, and our documentation is right here from Caltrans. Caltrans is thanking us for helping them make the right decision. How much better does it get? We're effective. How about that? Thank you. I'm going to send such a letter, a press release. I'll bring you a copy at the next meeting. That takes care of item 12. Item 13.
Let me just
Oh, yes.
work with you on that, Barry,
Sure.
just because I think we want to be clear about, I don't know that the role of the commission was directly involved in the making decisions they did, but we, you know, I'd like to work with you on it just before.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
okay,
you're gonna be my editor
okay,
of
all
my
right,
press release, to make sure, keep me legal.
okay.
Okay.
You want to be accurate.
Sure,
That's what-
absolutely accurate.
Richland County.
Absolutely accurate.
Yes, okay.
But it's a very positive letter, and they are thanking us. Neil, yes.
Well, you know, this is something that we've talked about, a little aside here, in terms of how do we get this information out when we have these little small pockets of influence that we help with within the county. This is, you know, maintaining the historic character in San Lorenzo Valley, you know, working with Caltrans and whoever, you know, sort of thing. But, you know, this kind of thing, and I don't know how, Annie, you would know, but, you know, this is tailor-made for, you know, an Instagram account. I mean, you know, if the commission had their Instagram account, you know, this is where you would post this, and this is where your all of us that were involved, our sphere of influence would trickle out from this in terms of, wow, look at that little commission did that sort of thing. I don't know how we get there right now, but I just got to say, it's really tough getting the newspapers. I mean, don't be disappointed. I could be surprised, but it's really tough getting them to acknowledge any kinds of these kind of things. I have found that's just been my experience.
Yeah.
Because they're so woefully short-staffed, and you set yourself up for disappointing, thinking they're going to be excited about putting a blurb like this in here, and you know, it's really, really difficult. But when you have social accounts like Instagram, you know, that is where you're getting able to put that out there and getting that out into the sphere. I don't know how we do that. I'm just drawing the contrast between how we're changing from what was a known way of trying to get the information out to which is sort of the new way to get the information out when something happens.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Neil. The county, I'm not a social media person, but the county does have a Facebook page, and I don't know if they have an Instagram account, but I can look into that and let you know, Barry, since he was interested in maybe, yeah, that's a suggestion too, that.
For the time being,
I have to tell you, just as an aside here, that the Capitola Police Department has an Instagram account and they use it liberally. They just went in this morning at 9:03. There was an explosion off 46th Avenue, some kind of a drug lab. They've already posted their proactive stance on that and what they did. And the CHP here locally is very proactive in posting what they've done, what they've fended off, how they've helped clear an accident. I guess there were a bunch on Corlitas Road this morning. So it's something to consider. I don't quite know how we get there, but you know, we're in this new age of how we manage our communication. Facebook is passe, I got to tell you. All my kids tell me that. But Twitter and Instagram sort of rule the roost right now in terms of getting that information out there. And, you know, incredibly easy to set up. How you monitor it, you know, Annie, you know, that it has some kind of a control factor, and how you deal with it is a whole nother range of things to deal with. But I just throw that out there as a way that you can get this kind of information out.
Okay, the county of Santa Cruz does have an Instagram page. I just looked it up, so.
Oh, Santa Cruz County does?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Could you look into that a bit? I don't want to overload you because you got a lot going on, but, or could one of us look into that a bit?
Well, there's probably
Yeah.
one person that has the authority to post on that, right?
Yeah, we would probably go through Jason Hoffman, I imagine. He's the county.
Great, yeah, terrific. Jason's terrific.
Yeah, so I can ask him, how we go about posting something.
And if you'd like, I can help. You can, ask him, I can call him, you can send him towards me. If you want to make the initial, contact with Jason, coming from you for first contact, that's better.
Yeah,
And, I'd be very open to helping with that.
okay.
All right, well, we're getting there. We're almost done now. What I'd like to do is, ask if anybody has any items for future agendas. We have already, in our process, put some things onto the future agendas. Are there any other additions
So
Will Andy going through those?
yeah, so here's what I jotted down. Let's see, related to goal 9A, the website, in April, we'll check on the progress on the website and provide comments. I will report back on the work done on 7992 SoCal Lab and permits. We will review a template I will complete related to goal 3B, documenting the condition of historic structure. I'll provide a blank template. I'll report back on the Mills Act, response from questions from the commissioners, and I will provide ordinances dealing with demolition of historic resources. And then, right, so that's what I have written down. I know we'll be continuing on with goals. I don't know if you want to mention, Linda, how you'd like to have goals appear on the agenda.
Annie, I think you and I need to have a phone call and go through the goals so you and I are on the same page.
Okay, that sounds good.
Very good. Okay, with that, I believe we have completed our agenda for today. Thank you for your participation, everyone. I think we had a very productive meeting today.
Thank you.
May I ask?
Thanks, Annie.
I ask for a call for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
A second?
I second.
Okay, Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Woods,
Aye.
Commissioner Pearlman, aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you and good day.
Thank you,
Bye,
Annie, for
buddy.
your hard work.
Oh, you're welcome. See you all later. Good
Thank
luck up
you.
there, Linda. Good luck with your your FEMA people.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.